And we have some fresh news coming in. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to meet US President Donald Trump on 28th of December in Florida as efforts intensify to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Kyiv says plans for the meeting are in place, with talks expected to focus on territory and security guarantees. Zelensky says the Defense Minister Rustem Umerov has held contacts with US officials and confirmed the highest level meeting has been agreed. Both leaders are working to align on a 20-point peace plan. While much of the plan is agreed, key issues remain unresolved, including Kyiv's firm opposition to territorial concessions in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Now I invite David Johnston, who's an American author and professor, and joins us from New York. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnston, for joining me in this discussion here. Professor, how do you see this meeting now taking place? We've learned that before the end of the year, there are efforts being made to arrive at some progress as far as the peace process is concerned, and there are also talks of, in fact, Zelensky has made the statement where he said that the new draft actually includes new formats of talks, which might signal for a three-party talk. Do you see Russia being okay with that and a good outcome coming out of a tripartite talk, if that is going to be the case?
I'm sorry. I think Russia is going to continue to do what it's been doing, which is delay and say we'll talk and we'll meet, all because it can then keep up military pressure on Ukraine. But I do think there's been some significant progress here that has been largely missed in the news. Namely that Donald Trump's administration put forth a 28-point plan that was basically written by the Kremlin, though they claimed it as an American plan. That plan has now been revised. There are about 20 points in it. It no longer is just everything Vladimir Putin wished for. And I think that's a sign of significant progress, because Zelensky has to keep Donald Trump in the corral. He's got to keep him on the ranch. And by making some concessions, especially if they don't expect the Russians to go along, it helps Zelensky avoid the worst thing that could happen, which is alienating Trump.
Right. And, with the talks now, as far as the security guarantees are concerned, European Union has not really given any security guarantees to Ukraine. So do you see the United States doing that?
Well, the United States already has an obligation to the security of Ukraine under the 1994 treaty signed by the Kremlin, in which Russia said that if you allow us to take the nuclear weapons that are in Ukraine back to Russia, we promise to never invade Ukraine. And the U.S. said, and we promise that we will defend Ukraine and protect it. I think what we're moving toward is a demilitarized zone, as you have in North and South Korea, setting up a border area with perhaps UN peacekeeper troops as a security guarantee to Ukraine.
Do you think it will be helpful if this dialogue is instead held at a UN forum, because all the key stakeholders are member states?
That would be one of the better outcomes we could have, is to have the United Nations at the center of this. But by and large, I think that Vladimir Putin's game here is simply to say, oh yeah, we'll talk, oh glad to talk, yes, here's a peace plan, without any intention of stopping short of what he wants, which is the complete conquest of Ukraine.
All right, so why do you think that's not happened so far? Is it only because of the Russian president's point of view?
Well, Putin has managed to some degree to alienate Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump basically has vowed fealty to him. He said he trusts Vladimir Putin at his word, but he doesn't trust the American intelligence agencies, for example. And so Putin, by not settling the war, by making Trump look foolish, because Trump claimed that he would have settled the war in one day after winning the election 13 months ago, and of course the war is still going on, Trump is embarrassed and has not achieved his goal. So that's actually been one of the biggest things that's helped the Ukrainians maintain a line into the Trump White House, even though on an ideological basis, Donald Trump is very much aligned with dictators. He sees himself as a dictator. He has essentially said that. I've been warning people about that for 14 years. And we're seeing here that Putin will keep talking, but he hasn't agreed to anything. He wants territory he hasn't even been able to occupy. And by the way, the latest military reports, including by Russian military bloggers, suggest that the Russians are being pushed back and are running into increasing problems because, of course, one of the lessons we've learned from all of this is that the Russian army is frankly not very good.
All right. Well, talking about Trump being the dictator, I requested to stay on as we move ahead to cover some news now coming in from Venezuela. Viewers, Venezuela has freed 99 people jailed after last year's election protests, although the rights groups believe that the figure is lower despite growing pressure from Washington on President Nicolas Maduro. This comes as hundreds of people in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, and other parts of the South American nation took to the streets after the July 2024 presidential election, banging pots and pans and blocking roads, demanding the opposition be declared victors. And at least 2,000 people were arrested in post-election violence. Meanwhile, the U.S. has amassed a huge military presence in the Caribbean, killing dozens in strikes on boats near the Venezuelan coast. It alleges were carrying drugs and seized 2 fully loaded Venezuelan crude oil tankers. President Trump has also said that it would be smart for Maduro to leave power. All right, I invite Professor Johnston to join me back in the discussion here. This, of course, is a welcome move that Venezuela has freed 99 people that were under detention. But how much of it do you think is really due to pressure from Trump? We were talking about how he, in your opinion, is a dictator.
Well,
in the oldest democracy in the world. So that is, of course, ironical to say the least. Please do expand on your point here.
Well, first of all, many leading Americans have come around to my point of view that Trump sees himself as a dictator. He's behaving like a dictator. He has asserted that he has all power as president, which is not true under the Constitution. But Trump has said, I have an Article 2, that's the irrelevant portion of the American Constitution, that lets me do anything I want. That's a dictatorial statement. Now, the release of the prisoners took place on Christmas Day in a country that is 85% Catholic, or at least nominally Catholic. So we shouldn't be surprised in the least that Maduro, who is clearly himself a dictator and there's good reason to believe lost the previous election and is only in office because of not properly counting ballots, that he would release prisoners on Christmas Day. He still has at least 1,000 people who are being held as political prisoners in his country. But by releasing these 99, it helps him mollify the population to get people to say, well, if we just go along with him, he'll release more people. So that's a tactically smart move. But without a doubt, given the armada that Donald Trump has off the coast of Venezuela, Maduro has to be thinking about how this plays in the Trump White House.
Sure. Do you also think this is somehow going to soften Maduro's rule, his dictatorial approach in Venezuela?
I would not expect that at all. I would expect that Maduro is going to, like most dictators, engage in a game of fear and rewards, carrots and sticks. He needs to maintain his support among the military to keep his position. And he needs to be wary of an invasion by Donald Trump, which would certainly end his presidency. I don't think anybody in the world expects that the Venezuelan military would stand up for 2 seconds against the American military if the United States were to invade, and which, by the way, Donald Trump has no legal authority to do.
Sure, definitely. Well, for now, thank you very much, Professor Johnston, for joining in this discussion. And viewers, moving ahead now, let's tell you that Israel has recognized Somaliland